The 3 departing members add fraud to their lawsuit.
Conference realignment and lawsuits are always in the news, so we're back on the Big Mountain to keep you updated.
Hey, welcome back to the Big Mountain. I am JY. This is my good friend Steve. Late last week on a Thursday, the 3 departing members that have filed a lawsuit in the state of Colorado issued amended filing. And the 2 big things here are the word fraud. They added fraud to the claim. And they also name now Commissioner Navarez as a defendant in the lawsuit. So there's 2 separate parties that are defendants now, the Mountain West as a conference and Commissioner Navarez. I'll get back to that here and kind of explain what that means in a little bit. Let's go through some of the details that are in this, then I'll let you kind of give your thoughts on where we're at, and then I have some opinions and some more information, I think, that maybe tells... maybe give some answers and clarify some things, at least from my reading of this. So, anyway, the actions section here, the actions say what has been done inappropriately here by the defendant. There were 8 originally, now there's 2 more. I'm going to read the 2 new ones. One says, making affirmative and fraudulent misrepresentations to plaintiffs regarding conference business and membership decisions for the 25-26 year, and fraudulently concealing a plan to covertly add Grand Canyon University as a member for 25-26 without informing the plaintiffs. The other piece here, kind of the 10th now action, says taking bad faith actions that unfairly prejudice and that are designed to deliberately frustrate the plaintiffs and other departing members' rights as members, including doubling their conference membership fees to fund the Mountain West defense of the lawsuit. In a nutshell here, Steve, I'll kind of give you the details now that, it goes on. I think it's a 30-some page document. We'll try to keep this fairly brief to get to our opinions. But here in the details, it said that the plaintiffs in this case, again, the 3 schools, sent a letter to the Mountain West regarding GCU on May 26th. This was after this letter was sent after they say they heard reports in spring of 2025 that GCU would be joining the Mountain West in 25-26. They went on to say that in May 2025, they heard from GCU coaches that Grand Canyon teams were planning their schedules as if they were going to be in the Mountain West in 25-26. So that was a letter sent to the Mountain West. They were hearing certain things. The Mountain West replied a day later on the 27th. The Mountain West stated that, quote, it was not accurate that Grand Canyon had been informed that it would be admitted as a member in 25-26, that the Mountain West had already agreed to admit Grand Canyon for 25-26. The decision to admit Grand Canyon had already been made without input from the plaintiffs. Again, they're saying these things were not accurate. So as you read this, you're like, whoa, they're saying this? No, they're saying this isn't what happened. That Grand Canyon was aware, they weren't, they're saying, of the Mountain West plans, and the Mountain West and Commissioner Navarez were concealing these plans from the plaintiffs and deliberately delaying the vote and public announcement until after June 1st. Based on these representations through this letter, the plaintiffs are saying that they continued to finalize their budget, their schedules, their team travel for 25-26, and make the decisions concerning their membership in the conference, aka if they're going to file to withdraw, including delivery of that notice, was impacted here for that May 2025 date. That was we'll get to that here in a minute. On July 8th, then, as we all know, it was announced publicly that GCU was joining for 25-26. So that was about a month and a half between when that letter was written, both those letters were written, and then the action by the conference to admit GCU. They did add causes of action here. Of course, fraud, as we started out, that is now a cause of action for both defendants, and that's where I said I'd come back to. Navarez is only named in this one action, which is regarding fraud and the representations that I just laid out that they're saying she made. Everything else in the lawsuit is as was and stays with the conference as a whole. So that's where it was kind of in this, got a little wordy, but they laid out that timeline. I think that's very important. I'm going to get back to that. Steve, I want to hear your thoughts, and I'm going to give some of mine.
My thoughts are, and I'm able to kind of come at this from a neutral point. You're the Mountain West guy, I'm the Big Ten guy. So as just kind of a neutral observer, I really did not think this was that big of a deal. I know there's a lot of Mountain West people that reacted like, oh, they've gone too far. They're adding the commissioner as a named claimant and all of those things. I honestly think this is just run of the mill. These types of things happen. We covered the ACC very extensively, FSU and Clemson. We saw in that case some salacious. They were accusing like sons of executives of stealing money and doing this and that, and we're ready to throw everything out there. To me, this is just two sides are engaged in litigation. They're trying to claim different things to show that they've been injured more than the other side. I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Commissioner Navarez, she's an adult. She's a grown up. She can handle herself. She is the commissioner. She is the chief executive officer of this conference, and for her to be named in the suit, I don't think is that big of a deal. We'll have to see how could they back up these allegations of fraud, because it's easy to claim, hard to prove. And it could have been one of those things where she was telling the technical truth, like, we haven't finalized these plans, because if they haven't been voted on, they're not finalized. Exactly. If they're just having a discussion, whatever, and the departing members maybe just claiming that basically kind of been decided behind closed doors, but it wasn't official yet. And it's one of those things where people, you can be advised by your attorneys of, okay, you can say these things because it doesn't take you over that threshold. And I have every confidence that Commissioner Navarez probably was advised by legal counsel and made sure that she didn't say anything that would cross that threshold. But at the same time, again, both sides are going to continue to do this. They want it. We didn't get a resolution during mediation, so both sides want to turn up the heat on the other side and claim more injury, more harm, have more weapons in their arsenal. So to me, I don't think this is a big deal overall. But my overall thought is, I just can't wait for this to end. I'm still upset that they didn't merge and come together. I think that would have been the best solution. And I think that both conferences are now going to be weaker than what they could have been together. And they're blowing money on lawyers. I mean, it's what it is. And every new thing you add to the pot, every month that this goes on, they're just wasting money on lawyers. And I hate to see it, and it just kind of sucks.
Yeah. So let me give some points. And this is absolutely going to be coming from the defense's side, right? We've heard from the prosecution, if you will, right? The plaintiffs. In terms of what they're saying happened. I mean, there's definitely some items in the public record that I've seen, you can find them very easily, that throw the other side of the story at this. In some ways, I think, fairly dramatically, right? Now, I get it. This is the prosecution side. They're trying to tell their side of the story in their terms. I get that. And I'm not saying anything that they put into this amendment is incorrect. They can't do that. Right. So that's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm just trying to offer maybe, broadening the discussion. I think a lot of what is put in here is fairly easily countered with facts that I know, let alone facts that are within the Mountain West right now. I do think some of this, when you read it, it's from a very extreme, in my opinion, point of view. But again, that's how they write these things. So I'm going to present a couple things. So first off, and I'll throw a couple things up on the screen, the announcement about GCU was in November of last year, right? So we've known GCU is going to be coming to the Mountain West. And in that announcement, it said that, quote, they would join the Mountain West no later than July 1st, 2026. So on its first site, no later than that. And it went on to say, but possibly as early as the second quarter of 2025, if permitted under the conference bylaws. So it was said in November, and everybody knew, if you were paying any attention to this, that as early as the second quarter of 2025, well, that's April, May, and June of 2025, right?
Absolutely.
So these plaintiffs knew that was in that. It doesn't say will, I understand that, But to say that
it's a possibility.
It's a covert. Well, it was a covert plan that
Right.
nobody was ever told about. Well, you can't make that statement if it's a covert plan. I mean, that's just where I'm at with it. So this covert planning, if you just look at the announcement, is, can I use the word debunked? I mean, it doesn't match up, right? Like, debunked is maybe strong, but they don't match up.
Yeah.
Am I kind of right about that, or do you disagree?
I mean, I think it's just all about splitting hairs and how you look. Because, yes, it was an obvious possibility, but I think what they're saying is that Commissioner Navarez told them no, that was not happening, but in fact that it was. I mean, that's the recipe for fraud. Now, they have to prove that. Yes, I get what you're saying. Like, they shouldn't have been surprised that this was a possibility.
Right.
But to allege fraud, to me, they would have to have they should have some kind of evidence that Commissioner Navarez was telling them one thing and then acting in a completely different manner, which I don't know if they have that evidence.
Well, we'll see. As for the statement about the coaches, if you remember, I talked about that. That was kind of the second red flag for them to put forward that letter to the Mountain West. I mean, everybody kind of heard those rumors. It wasn't just these three schools happening to hear from coaches. Like, we talked about that. Everybody talked about that. It was well known. Heck, I said for months, I think the Mountain West is going to join in 25-26, something that we ended up being correct on. Like, this isn't a surprise to me. It shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone. But I want to harken this back to A.D. Boggs. She said to us last week they were working on an A, a B, and a C.
Yes.
And were coaches being told and asked to, hey, make up multiple schedules, one of which maybe was with the Mountain West?
Right.
I'm sure they were. That doesn't mean anything. They were working on plans.
We've talked about this a lot in all kinds of scenarios, all kinds of teams, all kinds of conferences. ADs and coaches, I'll specifically talk about ADs.
Yeah.
ADs have to make sure the trains run on time. They have to make plans to get teams from point A to point B and then back for class on Monday morning. So they have to plan for all contingencies. And they work with their coaches in these sports to make up those plans.
Yes.
That is normal. We had an episode, I can tell you there was a point in the FSU litigation where the Big Ten was thinking, oh my gosh, something's going to happen and we're going to have to make a move. And so they started asking their coaches and ADs, hey, what would it look like to throw FSU in a schedule, as early as 26, 27 or whatever? Give us start working on that just in case.
Sure.
So that is a normal thing that happens. Contingency plans.
Right.
It's exactly what they are.
Yeah, for sure. Talk about timeline here real quick. Of course, the letter supplied to the the letter of the Mountain West supplied to the plaintiffs was the end of May. Of course, there was an announcement with GCU until beginning of July. So you're talking about a month and a half. I mean, come on, guys. We know you can do a lot of business here, especially under these realignment conditions within a month and a half. So I think that gap, again, there's got to be proof from Navarez, but that gap, I mean, they don't really talk about that. That, wow, yeah, they could have actually, gotten things done in that amount of time.
I think this part is just lawyer talk. Like, lawyers adding, we need to add this to say this made our life more difficult.
Yeah.
This made the process of moving on more difficult so they can claim more injury.
Okay, all right. The last thing I want to talk about, and this is paragraph 81 on page 22, if anybody really cares to go check this sucker out. But I had a couple thoughts on this, and it says, quote, this paragraph says, quote, based on these representations and insurances of that letter that we talked about, the plaintiffs continued to finalize their budget, schedules, and team travel for 25-26 and make other decisions concerning their memberships in the conference, including delivering the resignation of the conference in late May 2025. A couple things I really want to point out here, Steve. So number one, I mean, are we to believe that the universities here were not going to withdraw on or before June 1st, required by the bylaws, which they did, because GCU was going to be added in 25-26? Because that's what that paragraph sounds like. They want you to believe that we would have made a different decision than leaving you in 25-26 if we knew about this. Something tells me there would be a lot in discovery that could probably help the Mountain West case in that regard. Just my opinion. As for the budgets, travel, and schedules, we learned, Steve, at the Mountain West Media Days from sources there that the addition of GCU is expense neutral but revenue positive. and that all the members would share within that revenue positive experience for 25-26. Also, all documented expenses due to scheduling changes and travel will be reimbursed by the conference to all members. That includes all departing members. Everyone will be made whole. This will not be a financial loss for anyone. This will be a financial gain, according to the Mountain West, because of reimbursements for travel and the fact, I don't know the amount, but they're going to get more money because of this year, which only would make sense. GCU wanted a place to play. So just a couple things there. I don't quite understand this from a true logistical dollars and cents. Not logistical. Of course, if you have to go someplace else, I shouldn't say logistical. A dollars and cents financial piece, and they talk about budgets, team travel, and scheduling. I don't know. This one's hard for me to get there.
I think, again, a lot of this is standard what lawyers do. So if you can go back up, we have some notes that we're going over. So this is it right here. This is the part, based on the representations and insurances, plaintiffs continue to finalize their budgets, schedules, and team travel for 25-26 and make other decisions, including, delivering their notice of resignation and all that stuff. So, I think this is just more standard lawyer boilerplate material of saying they made it tougher on us. Okay. They made it an inconvenience on us. And I always compare this. You always used to laugh when we talk about the AC, getting a divorce, okay?
Yeah.
Whenever two parties get divorced and it's a custody agreement, if one side is trying to get something from the other, they basically try and claim something is so difficult. Oh, this is so hard. This adds more pressure to me. This adds more inconvenience to me because they want to be compensated.
Yeah.
And what is this whole lawsuit coming down to? It's the departing members want to pay less money to get out. They want to pay, basically it's coming down to money. They're arguing about money, so they're trying to say this is a big inconvenience to us. Yeah. This caused us all this hassle, and we want to be compensated.
Yeah.
I think that's really what it is in general. You're definitely looking at it very specific, like how could this really actually logistically
Which is typical for us when we do these.
Exactly. Yes. And I think this is just general lawyer boilerplate saying this was a big pain in the neck for us, added more pressure to us, inconvenience to us, and we think we should be compensated for it. Whether they should or not, that's going to be a judge. They're going to have to prove that they were.
Yeah.
That's my take on that.
Well, I like to think that I kind of filled in some of the gaps here with this, and they did include those letters that I talked about as part of their filing. But man, they won't. I don't think put it in their writing or what they're saying is fraudulent. But they were pretty clear. It was like, you gave us these representations, and that's not what really happened. Yeah. There's just a lot of inconsistencies. I shouldn't say questions of timelines, and and who knows? We haven't seen everything that maybe some of the conferences or the plaintiffs have seen. Who knows? I don't know.
And that's the thing is they may be taking some shots in the dark because they might not exactly know, but they are the plaintiff in this case, so they get to depose the defendants. They get to, in discovery, get to go in, okay, we're alleging this, and you're saying you didn't do this, so we want all your communications, on your emails, basically they're trying to put pressure on them. This is like their next chess move to try and put pressure on the Mountain West. And if everything was up and above board, cool. But if they can find one little thing in discovery to just beat, they will do that. Which that's just kind of how lawsuits work. Again, we saw that in the ACC, FSU stuff. Every little thing they could find, they'd make a big deal about it. So I like what you're doing, and you're breaking this down in the timeline and all that kind of stuff. To me, I think this is a little bit of the departing members maybe just taking a long shot, see what they can get to stick.
Okay.
But we'll see. Maybe they actually have some substance here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, again, as somebody will write, we're never going to get there.
Yeah.
But, we'll talk about it until we get somewhere. That's for damn sure. Yeah. So, hey, with that, we thank you guys for watching this. Smash the like button. And we have previews coming up this week for the Mountain West, the Big Ten. We have picks coming. Tons of college football coming to you here from the Big Mountain. So look forward to that. So, hey, with that, we'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.